Welcome to this week's Just Saying. Steve McFeeters and I are here. If you'll notice, we don't have a guest with us today. We're going to try to follow up on 3 or 4 different topics that we've had on the show in the past. And we thank you again for joining us, as always. Steve, let's start off and talk football, since it's that kind of time of year.
We have the red on, and of course, the Sikeston Bulldogs has a very storied football program over the years. And on Friday night, when they beat Kennett at homecoming, the Sikeston Bulldog football program became only the 5th football program in the state of Missouri to surpass 600 wins. The others in that category are Jefferson City, you know about them, Kansas City Rockhurst, Webster Groves, Chillicothe, Missouri did it in October of 2010. Now the Bulldogs, through all the years, are the 5th team, the first in Southeast Missouri to win 600 football games.
Tremendous credit to the program, absolutely.
Give them a hand on that, and you go back to Coach Sapp, and even before that.
Coach Knox before that. Long, storied tradition, history in Sikeston.
Terry Smith was here. There were a lot of wins in the Charlie Vickery era.
Absolutely.
And now all the way to Coach Kent Gibbs here to date. Over the last 3 years, they're 31-3.
Yeah.
So it's, football is not all about winning, but it's about learning things about life, and to have our team in that elite group is pretty special.
Certainly is. And we've had some names from Keith Sigenhorn and Kenny DeMint and Tiger Boyd and James Wilder through the years who have gone on to great success in college ranks, and in some instances Wilder in professional ranks. So Sikeston has a rich history in football. So
Brandon Barnes,
absolutely.
Played on special teams.
And a tremendous student athlete as well. He was a very good student, but nonetheless. So we start off. We do give credit to the Bulldogs, and we give credit to the high school and to the program. Very rich tradition, and we commend them on that. Let's touch on a topic that's kind of we've been on in the past, and it's the Malco Theater. And in what I think is somewhat of a not unexpected, but a kind of a surprise move this week. The city shut down the Malco this past week for code violations.
Right.
And they're serious code violations. And as we sit today, I don't know that we have anything certain that we know what the future of the Malco Theater will be in Sikeston.
Well, if you polled a lot of the residents and you said Malco was shut down because the place is their own spokesman described as a dump at a public hearing before the city council, people may not be that surprised when they stop and think about it, because they've let the conditions deteriorate to where it's just not really safe probably to send people in there. And I've talked to so many people that just don't go because the Malco people have chosen not to make any kind of investment. We know they wanted the city council to do the CID and raise money through a tax, but the majority of people didn't think that was fair. They have businesses in other parts of the country that do well. Sikeston may not be the top return on investment for them, but it's like they have a different standard in different markets, and so I guess they have the opportunity to either do it right or get out. I don't know what their intentions are.
Well, and I think as we sat here today, we don't know what their intentions are, but a movie theater, an entertainment outlet, is an important part of community. It's important for all ranges of age.
Absolutely.
We sit in a community now where there is an excellent theater just 25 miles north of us in Cape Girardeau.
Good one over in Dexter.
A good one in Dexter as well. And we sit here with the issues facing Malco. And as I said, as we sit here today, I don't know what the future of Malco is. I don't know if they'll make the decision to stay here and make the improvements, or if the potential exists for them to exit our community, which can hopefully open up our doors to another developer who will put a theater here.
Well, I remember the story, and I think Scott Welton did the story, did a very good job. I was at that public hearing when they talked about, we have the Malco spokesman described his own theater here as a dump, probably have some liabilities, even made a statement, if you can go find another theater operator, go find it. But if they didn't get that tax, then it didn't sound like they were going to do anything to it. So the city has an obligation to its citizens. They have the potential to put 600-700 people in those 3 theaters. And so really they have a responsibility to make that at least sittable. I don't know what the right word is, but you can sit through a movie and not have your feet stick to the floor or your chair vibrate around.
Broken or what have you, yes.
So it's really surprising to me that that they wouldn't want to do better or allow someone else to do better.
And as you well know, you know, one of the important facets of having an up-to-date modern theater in a town is they quite often attract other businesses, restaurants, that type of thing. And if we had that type of facility in Sikeston, and we could attract people from Charleston, East Prairie, New Madrid, Portageville, instead of going to Cape, if they would stop here to go to a modern, up-to-date theater, it's got to be an improvement for our community, not just the residents, but for those who visit our community and spend their money here, hopefully.
But I think, like you mentioned earlier, if you're a small business with little resources, sometimes you can't afford to do it. If you're a bigger regional type movie operator like they are, they probably do have the resources. So
sure they do.
Now it's up to them. The city is doing its job. I commend the city for doing their job and doing it right. So it's up to them. Fundamental decision is we're going to fix it up, make it safe, make it good for the people of the community, or we're going to go and let someone else do it. I think that's fair enough.
Well, and I think in the next couple of weeks, all the eyes will be on the Malco people, because I think the ball's in their court. They can either make the decision to invest in our community or to exit our community, in which case, as I said, that may open the door to another developer. But so for those of you watching this program today, pay attention to the headlines and pay attention to what's going on, because Malco is going to be making a decision very soon as to what they're going to do, and that's going to impact our community.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the feedback from the viewers and those that read the newspaper, online, speak out to see what their feeling is at this time on this situation.
I suspect we will hear from them.
I think so too.
Let's jump to another topic. A couple of weeks ago, matter of fact, past 2 weeks, we had Kevin Maynard, the mayor of East Prairie, who is extremely personally involved in the project of rebuilding the levee. You know, we don't need to necessarily go back in history, but obviously the Corps of Engineers blew the levee during the flood this past spring. Flooded 130,000 acres of prime farmland in the spillway. The Corps is in the process of rebuilding that levee, but perhaps not up to the level, to the standards that those involved would like it. I don't know how much credit we deserve, but that's beside the point. Someone from USA Today newspaper saw this segment of this webcast recently, and this past week visited East Prairie and visited with Kevin, and hopefully USA Today is going to have an article real soon on this topic, which brings additional spotlight to our area, and hopefully maybe it will nudge the process a little bit.
And the film that was made, the man-made disaster, described the people who were affected by it not getting the help that you would think they would get because it wasn't, quote, an act of God.
Correct.
That one always drives me crazy. But there are people in need, and the ongoing issue, only building the levee back at 52 feet instead of 61 or 62.
Yes.
There's a lot of commerce, a lot of people are fed out of that spillway area by the crops that are raised, and so hopefully this will raise more awareness. I think Congress agreed to rebuild it back. It's all about funding right now. It got stalled in the Senate, so hopefully USA Today will shine the national spotlight on it to help our neighbors to the east of Mississippi County.
Well, let me tell you something that surprises me, and I had some conversations. If you've monitored, and I don't expect anyone to, but if you've monitored the Speak Out column that we have in our newspaper, there are some residents who are less than supportive of the plight of those farmers affected by that flood.
Sure.
I've had some conversations this week with some people who are also involved in agriculture in some instances, who don't have that level of concern, sympathy, if that's an appropriate term, for those affected by that. And their argument is, well, it's twofold. One is that those who were farming in the spillway knew full well going into it what the situation was. All of the deeds point to that. And that's historical, going back to 1937, I think. And the other aspect that they point out, and not by any means do I agree with this position necessarily, but they point out that, as Kevin did last week, even in this disaster, in this dire circumstances, about 85% of the spillway has been replanted, primarily in beans, soybeans, and is in production today. So my point is, and that's not to raise a secondary issue, but the point is, there are a lot of people affected by this. There are businesses, there are a lot of homes, families displaced, that may never rebuild, and there's an overwhelming consensus that we should do something, obviously, to help them. But there are those who don't necessarily take that approach.
Yeah, and you understand that to a point. You knew you're in the spillway, you knew this could happen, but the levee system was built, and the height of the levee was designed for a reason, and to blow it up and not build it back the way it was is not right.
Well, in the court, the court's trying to make two arguments, and one is that it's appropriate at this level. It will allow intermittent flooding, although not nearly at the level, obviously, that we saw this year. And it's a safeguard. Their other argument, obviously, is that they lack funding. And they can make those arguments, and it's understandable. Sure. But tell that to the residents of Pinhook who now have no homes. Tell that to the machinery and the homes and the lives that were displaced that can never be put back together, so to speak.
It's very, very interesting issue, and it'll be interesting to see if they can build it back, see if the people can put their lives back. And as you pointed out, they know they're at risk by staying there.
And they go into that. But hopefully, as you said, USA Today will put a national spotlight and create some additional attention. And if that's the case, that's wonderful, because that farmland is an essential part of the ingredient of our region, not just to the people but to the products. As you mentioned earlier, as Kevin mentioned last week, the amount of product that grown out of that can feed 1.9 million people annually, and
provide a lot of economic revenue.
You start putting it in that term, and you start realizing how important it is. But
one other recent issue was what's it been, about a month ago, where there was a 18-month investigation, and we had a drug raid in town that hauled off about 60 people, and that all the agencies that worked on that, it makes me feel a lot better knowing that they're doing that kind of work to get that kind of presence out of our city.
No question about it. And I don't think any of us have really come to full grips with the scope of this operation. These are federal and state indictments. This drug ring was moving almost $1 million in cocaine each and every month through our community. You take that over a year's process, a $12 million business, criminal business based on that in our little town. What frustrates me, and I'm glad you brought the point up, what really frustrates me is there are some within the community who want to ignore this or downplay this.
You can't.
And that's a recipe for disaster. There's no question about that.
Well, I'd rather read the headline about a community that's doing something about it than saying, let's don't talk about it.
That's right, yes. And that's that old ostrich mentality. If you stick your head in the sand, it'll go away. It doesn't go away. No. We have a long history of that. The law enforcement agencies involved and the federal grand juries that were involved, they are to be commended for helping us as a community.
The message it sends is this is not a good place to do that kind of business.
Absolutely, no.
That's the message that we have to have.
Our door is closed to that, and I think that message has been sent loud and clear. I hope it is. Let's wrap it up real fast with a little discussion on Three Rivers.
Right.
Three Rivers right around the corner. They're about to start a fundraiser to help fulfill the promise and the dream of a campus in Sikeston.
Right.
This past weekend, they sponsored a jamboree at the field house.
Right.
Brought 4 college teams in and played some heads-up excellent basketball.
A lot of fun for the high school players and people dreaming of playing college ball someday.
And it gives us a sense of a college level atmosphere.
Well, I've said all along we're very blessed here to have Three Rivers in our community already, with 500 students needing a new location. They have the land that Scott Matthews donated. They're going to build a state-of-the-art facility there. We also have Southeast on the north end of our community doing an excellent job with the programs they offer.
Yes.
So our community has, I think, about 1,500 students going to college.
Absolutely.
And we have both of those institutions here, and I think it's a good thing. There's more people going to college than ever before.
Yes.
So,
and that gets back to the thing that you talk so often of, and that's the need for a skilled workforce.
Absolutely.
It's not just a matter of people filling seats or people filling vacancies, but we need skilled, and these two institutions of higher education will take us into that development.
Right.
There is nothing but good that is going to come out of this, and as this begins to unfold in the weeks and months ahead, I think everyone will join in the spirit.
And there's certificate program, associate degrees, 4-year degrees, and job opportunities we can talk about in a future episode. There are a lot of jobs available right now. Most people think there aren't any, but there are.
There are jobs.
But you may have to have some special training to get that job.
That's exactly right. Everyone you talk to, and you've had a lot of these meetings, people are looking. They're looking for people to hire today. Many of them are entry level, but it gets back to some basic issues, and these colleges will expand those skills with the workforce available. I think there's a bright future for our community.
I think so,
I really
too.
believe there is.
You combine it all, you set a standard, you don't allow drug activity to go unchecked in your community, and you start working people to get them educated through certificate, associate degree, or 4-year programs. That is the direction we need to be going.
No question about it, and I think we're headed in that direction.
I do too.
Once again, we're out of time, as we always are. We thank you for joining us. We're open to any suggestions, comments, or criticisms that you have. Keep tuning in to the Standard Democrat website, and we'll see you here in a week or so. Thank you.